I remember the scent of olive groves under the twin suns of Calth, the sharp tang of ripening fruit mixed with the peppered salty breeze from the underground seas, carried up through the cavern vents to our surface settlement. My father would harvest the first yields by hand, teaching me the value of disciplined labor before the mechanized reapers took over. He spoke of the Primarch's teachings, how every action, no matter how small, contributed to the greater harmony of Ultramar. The memory surfaces now as I stand in the armoring halls of the Fortress of Hera, observing the cobalt blue lacquer harden on my Mark X Tacticus plate. 429 years have passed since I last walked those groves as a mortal boy. 429 years since I was known as anything but Brother Lucius of the Ultramarines' Second Company. They teach the citizens of Ultramar that we are exemplars of the Emperor's will, stoic guardians, forged from the Primarch's own legacy, embodying courage, honor, and unyielding discipline. In the Scalum texts and triumphal arches, we are depicted as noble warriors in gleaming armor, our bolters thundering with tactical precision as we vanquish Xenos and traitor alike. The holovids proclaim our theoretical acumen and practical application, our adherence to the Codex Astartes as the pinnacle of martial perfection. What they omit is the cost. What they never reveal is that, to become such a paragon, you must first excise the frailties that define humanity itself. I was 12 when the Agisalis came to our world. 12 years old, sparring with wooden blades in the settlement's training yard alongside my cousin Tarquin, while our families tended the agrodomes. The sky was a vault of engineered azure that day, stable and unchanging, a testament to the efficient governance of No droughts plagued Calth. The realm of Ultramar was a model of imperial prosperity, its worlds synchronized under the Primarch's ancient doctrines. Whispers of discontent were rare, our tithes were fair, our defenses impenetrable, our lives ordered by the Codex's principles applied to civilian administration. But even in this bastion of order, the stars demanded their due. The people spoke of the great devourer that had scarred Ikafor, or the ancient betrayals of the Horus heresy, reminders that vigilance was eternal. The Thunderhawk's roar announced their arrival just after the midday drills. Not a storm's fury, but the controlled descent of a gunship bearing the Ultima symbol, its engines calibrated to minimize disruption to the settlement's routines. Tarquin and I raced to the landing plaza, our calloused feet pounding the permacrete as we vied for the best view, laughing about who would spot the first warrior. What we beheld altered our fates irrevocably. A squad of Ultramarines, their armor the deep blue of Macrag's oceans, emerged with parade ground precision. Even as a child raised on tales of the 13th Legion, schooled in the histories of Guilliman's reforms, I recognized them instantly. The Adeptus Astartes, the Emperor's Angels of Death, custodians of humanity's future, architects of victory through logic and resolve. Seeing them up close, however, evoked not awe but a profound sense of inadequacy. They towered like statues from the halls of honor, their movements economical and flawless, vox grills emitting clipped low Gothic commands that brooked no deviation. Their armor bore the marks of campaign scorch patterns from tyrannid bioacids, dents from orc choppers, yet each was maintained to Codex standards, a blend of functionality and heraldry. When they spoke, their voices were modulated for clarity, turning announcements into doctrinal imperatives. They had come for the aspirant trials, they declared. Ultramar required fresh blood to replenish its defenders, and Calth had been honored with selection rights, as per the chapter's rotational recruitment protocols. My mother bowed her head in stoic acceptance when my name was called from the genetic registry. Not with tears, the people of Ultramar are taught to embrace duty above sentiment, but with a quiet pride, tempered by the knowledge of what lay ahead. She understood, as few outsiders could, that her son would depart as flesh and return, if at all, as something forged in the fires of theoretical perfection. She knew from the scalums that the survival rate was low, but necessary for the chapter's purity. The selection was methodical and impartial. Physical assessments measured endurance against Macragg's gravity simulations. Genetic assays scanned for compatibility with Guilliman's gene seed. Tactical aptitude tests drawn from the Codex's appendices evaluated our ability to apply theory to hypothetical scenarios. Of the 400 youths from our sector aged 10 to 14, only 9 met the stringent criteria. I was one, Tarquin was not. His eyes held a mix of envy and relief as the apothecary's servo probe dismissed him. Its red light flickering negative, and I felt a fleeting pang pride in my selection, sorrow for the bond severed. But such emotions were already being catalogued as inefficiencies to be addressed in the trials ahead. We were allowed no prolonged farewells, no final feasts in the family habunit, no last nights under the artificial stars of Calth's cavern ceiling. The sergeants instructed that attachment bred hesitation, and hesitation invited defeat. We were no longer sons of Calth. We were aspirants of the Ultramarines, bound to the Primarch's legacy. Our former lives mere footnotes in the chapter's annals, to be referenced only for genetic tracking. The voyage to Macragge aboard the strike cruiser Honor S-Blade spanned 2 months through stable warp routes. Ultramar's navigators are among the finest, minimizing the demon's touch with Geller fields tuned to perfection. We shared holds with aspirants from Espender, Talazar, and other worlds of the realm, sons of nobles schooled in etiquette. Forge workers with calloused hands like mine, even feral survivors from Ajax's wilds who bore scars from native beasts. The chapter sought not just robustness but compatibility with Guilliman's gene seed, the blueprint of disciplined supremacy, ensuring no flaw from the heresy's taint. En route, we absorbed our first doctrine, the primacy of the theoretical over the impulsive. We studied basic Codex excerpts, learning that every battle was won first in the mind, through planning and adaptation. Of the 56 aspirants embarked, 42 endured. Some perished in preliminary hypo-indoctrination, their minds fracturing under simulated combat scenarios, where they faced holographic traitor marines or tyrannid swarms. Others fell in sparring drills, bones yielding to the rigors meant to temper transhuman potential, their bodies unable to adapt to the accelerated training. A handful simply faltered psychologically, unable to reconcile their mortal frailties with the Codex's demands for unflinching resolve. They were granted merciful ends, their remains committed to the void, with notations in the logs, no eulogies, only lessons extracted for future aspirant cohorts. Those who broke were seen as honorable failures, their gene samples preserved, if viable. But we learned expendability. The chapter's strength lay in quality, not quantity. The fortress of Hera crowns Macragge like a crown of adamantium, its bastions hewn from the planet's polar mountains, augmented with void shields and macro-cannon batteries capable of repelling high fleets. Gothic vaults house the relics of 10 millennia, Guilliman's own gauntlets from the Scouring, banners stained with the blood of iron warriors from the heresy, tomes of tactical wisdom penned by chapter masters across eras. Stepping into its halls for the first time, I sensed the weight of legacy, not oppressive, but instructional, a reminder that every Ultramarine stood upon the shoulders of giants who had codified victory itself. The walls echoed with recitations from the Codex, aspirants before us having etched their paths in blood and resolve, their footsteps worn into the stone floors. The proving commenced without delay. For 8 months, we endured regimens calibrated to Guilliman's standards. Endurance marches across Macragg's glacial wilds, where sub-zero winds tested resolve and forced us to apply practical navigation. Tactical simulations against combat servitors, programmed with Xenos stratagems from Eldar hit-and-run to Necron phase shifts. Doctrinal studies until the Codex's verses became instinctive, recited while under duress from Panandus. Pain was not punishment but pedagogy, teaching us to apply practical solutions to theoretical challenges, to compartmentalize agony and maintain fire discipline. Of the 42 who arrived, 26 survived the initial culling. The fallen were interred in the crypts of heroes, their gene seed harvested, if viable, their names added to the rolls of honor but mourned. No, grief was an inefficiency. We were schooled to channel loss into improved tactics, analyzing each death for procedural flaws. We learned detachment as a virtue. Those who clung to memories of home, whispers of family, or the scent of olives faced remedial hypnotherapy, neural engrams reinforcing that personal bonds weakened the phalanx. I ceased naming my fellow aspirants beyond squad designations. It was pragmatic, reducing variables in combat projections, but it also severed the last threads of camaraderie that might breed doubt. The first implantation arrived post-proving, the secondary heart, enabling survival in extremis, pumping blood even if the primary failed, performed in the apothecarian's sterile vaults, amid relics from the Great Crusade like surgical tools blessed by the Emperor's own tech priests. I remained awake, as per chapter doctrine. Pain honed focus. Enduring it built resilience, teaching us to function amid bolter fire or bioplasma burns. In the years ahead, it allowed me to press assaults through wounds that would fell regiments. But it also began the erosion, a subtle distancing from mortal concerns, where pain became data rather than suffering. Subsequent months blurred into a symphony of augmentation and trial. The os medulla fused our skeletons into unbreakable bulwarks, capable of withstanding orc power claws. The Biscopia amplified musculature for transhuman strength, allowing us to wield heavy bolters one-handed. The Haemostamen optimized blood for void and toxin alike, surviving the rad wastes of Forge Worlds. Each organ brought us nearer to Guilliman's ideal, not mere brutes like the Space Wolves, but strategic engines of war, applying theory to every strike. Dreams of Calth's groves faded under hypno-indoctrination. I forgot the warmth of family, replaced by the cold calculus of duty, by the Larriman's organ implantation, which sealed wounds instantaneously with scar tissue. I no longer yearned for home. I had become home to the chapter's purpose. My body a temple to the Primarch's vision. The black carapace, the neural interface for power armor, was the culmination. Of the 14 remaining aspirants, 3 rejected it, their forms convulsing as rejection cascaded through neural pathways, toxins flooding their systems. We observed impassively. Empathy was extraneous, a flaw the Codex warned against in interpersonal dynamics. Their deaths were data points for apothecary refinement, ensuring future implantations' success rates improved. Rising from that crucible, I felt ... nothing. Void of frailty. Replete with potential, a perfect vessel for the machine spirits of armor and weapon. The induction ceremony occurred in the Temple of Correction, where Guilliman's stasis-sealed form once rested before his resurrection by Belisarius Call, Chaplain Orton, Cassius veteran of the Tyrannic Wars. His face, a mask of bionic reconstruction, administered the oaths to uphold the Codex, defend Ultramar and the Imperium, apply theory to practice without deviation, and die before dishonor. Kneeling before the Primarch's empty throne, surrounded by incense from Tarentus herbs and the hum of servos gulls recording the rite, I swore eternal vigilance. Emerging as Brother Lucius, my birth name archived in the librarium for reference only, I was no longer a boy of olives and suns. I was an ultramarine, disciplined, honorable, inexorable. The child had perished in the forges. What remained was a tool of Guilliman's legacy. My first combat deployment came 4 months later, aboard the battle barge Octavius. Our destination was the agri-world of Quintorn, where Tyranid splinter fleets from High Fleet behemoths, remnants probed Ultramar's borders, threatening the realm's food production quotas. The warp transit lasted for weeks, during which we immersed in preparation, doctrinal reviews of Xenos biology, squad drills in zero-gravity holds simulating boarding actions, equipment rites where we communed with our bolters, machine spirits, through oil and chant. We internalized unity, not individuals seeking glory like the White Scars, but interlocking components in Guilliman's grand strategy, each expendable for the whole. Simulations enforced adaptability, designate casualties randomly, recalibrate formations mid-scenario, harvest gear from the fallen without pause, treating bodies as logistical assets, necessary for the hive mind swarms, where hesitation meant consumption. Quintorn was a verdant jewel in Ultramar's crown, its tar pits and sinkholes engineered for defense, but now infested with bioforms, gaunts skittering through crop fields, warriors burrowing into silos. We deployed via drop pod, impacts forming a perfect kill box per codex orbital insertion protocols, minimizing collateral to the agri-infrastructure. Emerging into the spore-choked air, I tasted the acrid temps of Tyranid pheromones through my helm's filters, my enhanced senses identifying swarm patterns. Brother Sergeant Varian signaled advance, and we moved in phalanx, bolters barking in controlled bursts. The first contacts came from concealed burrows, hormagaunts leaping with chitin blades, their forms shredded by our mass-reactive shells. The air hummed with the codex hymns from our voxcasters, bolstering resolve. We responded with precision flankers, suppressed heavies, provided overwatch per theoretical anti-swarm tactics. The corrupted biomass offered no quarter, but neither did we. The battle spanned 3 days, purging nests with promethium flamers, collapsing tunnels with demolition charges, coordinating with Tarentus tank regiments for armored support. Victory was theoretical, perfection minimal losses to brothers interred with honors. Maximal extermination, production quotas restored within parameters. Yet, as we extracted, Brother Seren noted something amid the carnage. The Tyranids fought with biological imperative, no fear, no doubt, a mindless collective. We countered with calculated efficiency, feeling naught but the satisfaction of parameters met. No hatred for the devourer that had scarred Ultramar, no triumph beyond logs, updated and after-action reports filed. We were machines of war, as intended by the Primarch effective, but empty of the fire that drove mortals to heroism. The campaigns that followed merged into a continuum of duty and doctrine. Orc was on Tarentus, where we orchestrated armored thrusts per codex mechanized warfare, slaughtering greenskins by the thousands while local PDF cheered our precision. Necron awakenings on Prondium's ruins, demanding adaptive fire lines against undying phalanxes that phased through our barrages. Tau incursions along the Damocles Gulf, where we countered pulse fire with counter-mobility tactics, dismantling battlesuits with crack missiles. Each engagement refined my application of theory, reading terrain for optimal kill zones, adapting to enemy evolutions mid-battle, exploiting weaknesses with surgical strikes. But I never learned to value the mortals we shielded. The citizens of Ultramar efficient, loyal, prosperous were assets to preserve. Their lives weighed against strategic imperatives. Acceptable losses in civilian sectors were calculated coldly, without the remorse that might plague Imperial Guard commanders. This detachment proved invaluable in internal pacifications. On Connor, we quashed a labor revolt sparked by administratum over tithes. After a Necron raid depleted resources. The workers, uncorrupted but desperate, had fortified factories with improvised barricades. They fought not with heresy, but for survival, believing reform could align with Guilliman's ideals. We pacified with precision strikes, drop assaults on key nodes, minimizing infrastructure damage per Codex urban warfare. Thousands perished. Their bodies cleared for reclamation, compliance restored. I killed a foreman on Connor who shielded his kin with a lascutter, his face etched with defiance, born of misplaced hope. Unarmed beyond tools, he posed minimal threat but obstructed our advance. A single bolt ended him. I advanced without hesitation. The child he protected collateral in the frag detonation that followed. No regret, sturdily confirmation of tactical efficacy. In meditation afterward, I attempted to recall his features. Human, male, mid-40s, but details blurred. He was an obstacle resolved, not a life extinguished. This void troubled me. Tactically did it impair threat assessment? Chaplain Cassius assured otherwise. Such detachment was doctrinal strength, transcending mortal frailties. Promotion came after a century. Veteran status, then sergeant. I authored tactical addenda on anti-tyrannid swarm dispersal, incorporated into chapter doctrine, my squad's exemplars of efficiency. Yet patterns emerged in deployments. We defended not primarily against Xenos, but enforced orthodoxy within Ultramar and beyond. On Espender, we eradicated a cult of progressives, who, inspired by Guilliman's return, questioned the Codex's rigidity, proposing innovations in agriculture that exceeded sanctioned Mechanicus limits. Their heresies were subtle, debates on efficiency that echoed the Primarch's own reforms, but threatened unity. We raised 6 settlements, 40,000 dead, preserving doctrinal purity over potential advancement. In the Indomitus era, with Guilliman awakened and leading crusade fleets, we joined the push against the Great Rift's horrors. Yet, even under his gaze, we suppressed worlds where citizens sought reforms, fearing schism in the face of chaos. On Talazar, we quelled uprisings against feudal lords whose tithes starved the populace, the rebels waving banners of the Ultima in misguided loyalty. We were wardens, not guardians, ensuring compliance, pruning deviations to maintain the Imperium's monolithic structure. This realization should have sparked doubt, but conditioning held. I observed contradictions without moral weight, serving because the Codex demanded it, not from conviction. I was a mechanism of Guilliman's vision, now rigid dogma, where evolution was heresy. Assignment to the Death Watch in my 3rd century offered clarity, eliminating Xenos threats under Ordo Xenos auspices. No ambiguities, aliens were existential foes. My first mission, purging a Tau diplomatic enclave on a fringe world, where envoys offered tech trades for resources, tempting governors with medical advances. Ordo briefings deemed it a subversion risk, eroding xenophobia essential to Imperial survival. We struck during negotiations, 40 Tau and human collaborators slain in a banquet hall breach. Precision bolters silencing pleas. Intelligence revealed their desperation, fleeing tyrannid advances, seeking alliances against mutual foes. Tactically irrelevant. We preserved isolation, but forfeited potential intel or temporary pacts. Questioning arose not emotion, but strategic. Did rigid purity serve long-term survival? but doctrine forbade such pursuits. I served unswervingly, the final revelation, a classified purge on an ultramar fringe world, unnamed in records, home to 17 billion. Sanctioned gene experiments, sanctioned colonists, for hostile voids succeeded to well superior cognition. Longevity, thriving where baselines perished. They challenged humanity's static ideal, implying evolution beyond the Emperor's design. Orders, exterminate, glass the world. The campaign, 6 months of methodical cleansing. Their subterranean cities resisting with coordinated desperation, parents sacrificing for children, communities singing anthems of hope amid bolter fire. 12,000 in the final bunker, voices harmonizing in defiance, creating beauty in extinction's face. We silenced them, orbitals reducing the world to slag. Watching from orbit, I recalled Calth's olives unbidden, piercing the void. I had lost humanity's essence. Love, hope, the spark worth defending. Yet it changed not. I serve still, a paragon without passion, guardian without grasp of what I guard. Centuries blur, deployments, victories, empty triumphs. I am hero to scalums, legend in annals, et protector, devoid of understanding. We Ultramarines endure, exemplars of order, but we have forgotten why order matters. We are shields without souls, enforcing an empire that devours its meaning. Yet we persist, in the Primarch's name, until the end.